right, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Evolution Security Podcast. It is me, Aaron Davis, and my twin bro, Eric Davis, the Tactical Twins. That is our band name, and it is tongue-in-cheek. But we are here with another great friend who is also a musician. We could start a band, actually, is Mr. John Daub. How are you doing, brother?
I am doing well. So thank you so much for having me on to talk tonight. I got to say, I had a hell of a day at the day job here and all this stuff. And I think this is sitting here down with you guys and just talking like we're going to talk I've been looking forward to it all day. And I think this is going to be great. So thank you for having me on. It's a high point of my day.
Rock on. Well, this is a high point of our days when we get to do this. And it's because of awesome experts like you that we can learn from, our audience can learn from, and more than anything, freaking have a good time hanging out with people that we have become friends with through this show and through training. So again, it's just fun having you on. We met for the first time in person at TACCon, and that was really enjoyable. We had great conversation, and we were clearly kindred spirits by how we hit it off there. So
no, it was wonderful to see y'all just a few months ago at TACCon 23, and I'm my wife came with me. I'm happy that y'all got to meet her and that she got to meet you, and it was it's like everything with TACCon. It's just there's never enough time, right? Because there's so much and so many people and so many things, and so it's always that you want to sit down and you get as much time as you can with each other, but you just always want more. But I think that's all right. Just they say always leave them wanting more, so it's a good thing. But it was great. It was great to actually meet you guys in person and finally get to just talk and just hang like that. It was great.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it was great meeting your wife as well, because we always see on social media your post and how much you adore your wife, which is awesome. And it was great to meet her for certain. And again, I'll second Aaron, is that it was awesome to meet you, John.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's always good when we all get together in real life.
Yep. Well, we'll do it again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Now, let me just bring us to the conversation that I wanted to talk to you about, John. So, and we chatted a little bit about it before we got on here and pressed the red record button. But so the audience is aware that I've gone through neck surgery and have been recovering over the past couple of months. And now I'm getting close to being fully released to do jiu-jitsu, shoot, and lift again. Now, of course, I'm not going to jump into any of those very hard, but at the same time, I'm really looking forward to it. Right before, actually, so at Christmas time, I put together pretty cool home gym setup.
Nice.
Good barbell system, and luckily my 14-year-old has been getting some use out of it because I felt bad. It's sitting there out in the garage. But so now I'm looking forward to getting on that thing, building my strength and everything. And I guess I'll digress a little bit. So I had my first PT appointment today, and cool. It's really cool. The girl, Michelle is her name. Hey, Michelle, just in case you listen here. She told me I was ahead of the game big time compared to all the, not all, but, apparently most of the people that have this type of surgery, right?
That's great to hear.
And she said that she could tell I went to the right surgeon, so nice. I'm really excited about that. Just lots of encouragement. She even said that my grip strength, which has been one of the things that I've had, I searched this surgery and procedure out because I was losing strength. And she said already that my grip strength, especially my left hand, she said she hardly ever sees anybody in there with my grip strength, which is kind of wild.
That's great.
I don't know if it's probably from shooting and playing guitar, etc. But so now that I'm close to being able to be released, I have fitness and lifting on the mind.
That's a
So
good thing to have on.
we knew that there wouldn't be much better of a person to ask about this stuff than you. So one thing I really want to do, and this is an encouragement to our listeners, because I'll tell you, I need encouragement in this also, but let's just talk about the importance of fitness, and then let's roll into the importance thereof of strength training. Can
Sure.
you explain that and give our audience some encouragement?
Sure. The way that I tend to look at a lot of things with fitness and anything in that regard, really, and I know that I'm probably different than a lot of people, because you'll see so much of like what the fitness industry is kind of oriented around is health and long life and longevity and all these things, and then there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. What I also sometimes, a lot of times when I look at that, or even things when it comes to, I don't know, whether it's fashion or cosmetics or any of these things that go with it, so much of it is around the avoidance of death. And the way I see it is like, well, you can't do that. Death comes for us all. It's, but it's not a morbid thing. It's more of a memento mori type of thing. The notion of remembering that, that someday you will die. And so that you should live life well while you have it. And so to me, it's like fitness for me isn't the kind of thing where it's trying to avoid death and make sure that I don't have a heart attack and I don't do this and don't do that. Because of course, if you sit there and realize, like, let's take eggs as an example. One day eggs are going to kill you. The next day eggs are not going to kill you. The next day the eggs are going to kill you again. Then it's just these things. Salt is bad for you. No, salt is necessary for you. No, salt is bad. So all this really comes down to trying to find a way to make sure, because I don't know when or how or whatever that I will die. I know there's no if. It is just a when and how and where and all that. I just want to make sure that between now and then, I can live my life as well as I can. For me, what hit me about this was many years ago. I actually remember we were at church and I watched people coming up. The Eucharistic ministers were coming up, and at this church there were like 3 steps up to the altar area. And I watched people who were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, struggling to navigate 3 steps. And I also remember, and like one of the big things I remember when I was in my early 20s, my oldest son had just been born. He was an infant. And I thought it was ridiculous that I'm trying to get down on the floor to play with him. And to try to get up was like one of those, like, kind of, making your father's noise kind of thing as you're getting up off the floor. This is ridiculous. I was like, 24 years old at the time. I should not have been so that way, right? And so for me, what it's all kind of come down to is really simple. I don't want to become decrepit. I want to make sure that as I'm living life to whatever age it may be, that the good Lord sees fit for me to stay to, that I can still enjoy life well with it. And so for me, what I think for a lot of people with fitness, it's like, well, everybody's got their goals and has their reasons for, why they go to the gym or why they do whatever. And sometimes it isn't always about health, right? Sometimes it is about performance, or it's about other things like that, right? But I just try to look at it that way, about wanting to make sure I can live life well. And I think that for anybody, it's like really like, when you pick what you do, like, strength training, I think that there's a lot of value in strength, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I also tell people, it's like, really, if you want to exercise, the biggest thing you got to do is pick something that you enjoy, that you're going to be willing to do. It's like, look, if you don't like lifting weights, that's cool. Do you like walking? Walk. Do you like running? Run. Like my younger sister, she loves to run. She runs marathons and does all this stuff. Brother, that ain't for me, right? I just don't like that at all. But I like lifting weights, right? So that's why I always come back to it. If you like playing tennis, play tennis. You like climbing rocks, climb rocks. You like gardening, garden. Because if you have to like legitimately be out there working in a garden and hauling wheelbarrows full of dirt and mulch and digging and moving, that's a lot of physical activity, right? And as long as you can do that on the reg, that's good for you. You're moving your body, you're using your body, and that's a lot of ways of what it comes down to. So that tends to be kind of like how I orient towards it. So like for me with people, I just look at it like, find something that's just a physical activity that you like to do. And if it's just as simple as walk, if you just walk 10 minutes a day, every day, I guarantee you in a month, you're going to be doing a lot better than you were the month prior. Just something as simple as that. So find things that you like. It doesn't have to be big, but just tell yourself that. Because if we look at say in a self-defense context, for example, a lot of people are like, well, if that happens, I'll just run away. Dude, when was the last time you ever ran? Are we really going to be able to just run away, right? Do you know how to fall safely? You guys doing jujitsu, you know how to fall, right? And there's something to that, to fall safely, right? To be able to get up off the ground is a thing, right? It's just stuff like that. So don't talk to me about I'll just run away when, dude, when was the last time you ever ran? And if it was in high school, or something like that, you probably need to do something more than that if you think that you're going to have the ability to use running as a self-defense mechanism. You know what I mean?
Well, and John, I'd just like to add to that. I think it was Paul Sharp that said it. I've probably heard several people say it, but what happens if the person that you're running from is a lot faster than you?
Oh yeah.
you just run away. What if that person, even though they may be a criminal now, what if they were a track star in high school?
Or simply, what if they're younger than you?
Absolutely.
Or how about this? What if you're injured? Did you ever think about that? How are you going to handle that? And so it comes to a whole lot of things going into that. But you're absolutely right, Eric. They may be more capable than you. Absolutely. So it's a thing to think about.
Well, so then let's go into the aspects of strength training.
Sure.
Because anyone sees you can clearly tell that you hit the weight room. So, and again, it's important to me again because I am needing to really get my lifting off the ground, which I had this hiatus. We started talking about it several months ago, but let's dig into that in specific.
What do you, so in specific, what would you be curious about with it? Because there's a lot of angles I could take here. So
yeah, pardon me. So we talked about the importance of overall fitness, but now as a subset of fitness, strength training, the importance of that. And then we can, I like how you went into some general aspects of doing what you can, etc. But then we can talk a little bit more about people getting involved, but let's just talk about the importance of it right now.
So I think there's a great quote from Mark Ripito. Mark is a strength coach. He's out of Wichita Falls, Texas, up here north of here. Most famous for the program that's known as Starting Strength. See, there you go. There's the book right there. And I don't have mine handy because it's over in my boys' room and all that, right? See, there we go. Starting Strength. It's a thing. He's got this great quote. He says, strong people are harder to kill than weak people and more useful in general.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's take a really simple thing. When there's a stuck lid on a jar, who in the household do you go to try to open it up? Do you go to the weakest person or you go to the strongest person? Right?
Yeah, strongest.
Right. And so it's that's a silly little example, but it's a very mundane example that all of us have experienced, right? When you get something stuck like that, right? So there's a lot of utility in that. I think strength also, especially again, if we, do you mind if I kind of put it in the context of self-defense, since that's kind of
100%.
Most assuredly.
Yeah, sure. It's well, let's go back to the walking thing here, right? Or to when's the last time you ran? I know people have things like, they talk about being prepared and they'll have things like their bug out bags, right? And it's like, okay, fine. So you got your bug out bag with all this stuff and 20 pounds of gear in it. You ever walked a mile in that? If you're thinking like, okay, I got to have this bag and I'm going to have to walk from here to there to do that. I'm like, dude, have you ever done that? Do you know what that would take? Can you physically handle that? Right? Can you pick that up? Even things, when, being the ability to pick up things off the ground that might be awkward or might be heavy. How about this? What if, you got someone who's in a medical emergency and you have to carry them or maybe drag them, right? Can you do that? That's a place where strength can be very, very useful to have. And straight up, another place that I found strength to be useful is quite simply is that I know they always, if everything's all equal, somebody far more skilled, say in jujitsu, they could probably twist me into a knot and take care of me, no problem, right? But I know, because I've, as I've rolled with some guys, and I do not do BJJ, I've done other martial arts stuff, and I have some semblance of clue about things. But I know for a fact that simply being big and being strong gives me tremendous advantage.
Yes.
I'm able to resist and fight and hold, and I can just literally manhandle and throw people around. And perfect example of that, Greg Ellifritz, right? There's a reason he's called Gorilla Fritz, right? Because it's very handy being able to pick things up and put put people through walls and things like that. Not saying that Greg's ever done that, but but understanding that that's a big thing that's been very useful, is having that size and having that strength. It's absolutely useful for you to be able to do things, or even just things like this, grip strength. I mean, Eric, I can imagine, Aaron, you said you can't go shooting, right? And you have an issue with grip strength, but you got to be able to hold onto that gun to be able to manage recoil, right? And if you can sit there and hold that there's something to that matters, right? So all in all, I mean, it's the sort of thing where I have yet to find someone to tell me where strength and being stronger is actually a weakness.
Not out there that I'm aware of.
What is it Mark Bell says? Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength, right?
Yeah, I like Mark. Man, I haven't heard Mark Bell's name in a while. He's a freaking great mind in the industry for certain.
Well, John, that's extremely succinct, and I think that a good thing to do would be to just take a look. Let's just delve right in. What does your routine look like?
What do I look like? So these days, actually, for me, I have changed a little bit. I'm not as strength focused as I am hypertrophy focused. I'm more about trying to get bigger than I am trying to get stronger. But there's no question, you can't get bigger without getting stronger, and you can't necessarily get stronger without getting bigger. It's just, where am I focusing my work? But let me give you. Let me back up a little bit and give you a little history of how I got to where I am, and that can give you some idea of how this has been. So it actually was. So if we really go way, way back, is probably when I was in junior high that the first getting introduced to the iron and the like of that. And of course, it's always that thing when you're that skinny little wimpy kid. All you want to do is get the big muscles and get the girl and all that kind of good stuff, right? The reality is that muscles don't really attract the girls; they just attract other guys who sit there and say, "Dude, how you lift, dude? What kind of weight you taking, or whatever?" Right? So
I hate to interrupt, but I just told my son the other day. I said, "Son, now remember, not all girls love big muscles." So.
But there are those that do.
Yeah, that's true.
My wife is like, "No, but I love you." I'm like, "Yeah, but you like the big pecs too. Admit it." She's like, "Yeah, well, okay." So there is there. But the thing is that on and off throughout my life, then I would always try. I try other exercises or other things or other kinds of physical activity, and they never took with me. But I always kind of came back to lifting it, but it would come and go. And then what happened was, I think it was about maybe 13, 14 years ago. I finally just said, you know what? I'm going to go to this gym near my house and I'm going to start lifting again because I think that's the only thing that I'm going to enjoy doing. So I did that, and I reverted back to the kind of bodybuilding stuff that I had grown up with, Muscle and Fitness and Flex and guys like Lee Haney and Rich Gaspari and, following all those guys. And so I just started doing like a full body kind of workout, 3 sets of squats, 3 sets of bench press, 3 sets of rows, 3 sets of curls, things like that. And after a few weeks of doing that, I got sick, caught a cold or flu or something, but I had gotten the iron bug again. And so I was just sitting online just while I was, lying in bed sick, and just trying to read everything I could. And I came across this thing called 531. It's a programming written by a gentleman named Jim Wendler, Wendler, Jim Wendler, 531. And as I read more about that, then I also discovered Mark Ripito and Starting Strength. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really neat. And so I immediately, I got enamored by that whole thing, because the thing that was great was it was a great way to focus on really simple things. So with Starting Strength, it's just squatting and bench pressing and deadlifting and overhead pressing, right? And then a couple little other things, but basically that's it. So it's very simple, really directed, and it was oriented towards trying to get you big and strong quickly, right? And of course, who doesn't want to have results overnight, right? So I did that for a few months until I stalled out with it, and then I switched to 531. And the thing that's really great about 531 is it's very much oriented around getting you strong. It's a very simple program. It's a very simple setup. And often people, I just tell them a really simple thing is like, okay, you don't know what to do? Here you go. Go Google 531. Either go buy Jim's books, or if you don't want to, I think he's got a very old article on T Nation that kind of outlines kind of from way, way back in the day that kind of outlines the basic program of it. And I tell people, it's like, look, if you just go get that and humble yourself, don't let your ego drive you to want to have higher numbers fast. And if you just follow the 531 boring but big template and just shut up and just do that for at least 6 months to a year, preferably at least a year, just shut up and do it. You will be amazed at the kind of person that you are after 3 months, after 1 month, after 3 months, after 6, and after 12. You will be bigger, you will be stronger, and you will be a whole lot better. And so I did that for a long time. I followed that. I got stronger. I then ended up switching gyms to a more powerlifting style gym. And so that's why I really spent a lot of time working on strength work. And I never got really all that truly strong. The most I got to a 405 safety bar squat because my shoulders were kind of weird. So I can't really do those low bar squats. It eventually kills me. I got to a 325 bench, a 515 deadlift, and a 225 overhead press. I mean, you know, it's respectable numbers, but really in the grand scheme, it's not that strong.
For the average person, it is strong.
Oh, for the average person, that's quite strong. Yeah.
Yes. Or for even the average lifter, it's strong. I'll just put it that way.
So thank you. And so, but that was the thing, was starting to work with those. Those are the programs that really, really set things apart, because there's a lot that once you understand, the great thing about 531 is that in the beginning, you can just blindly follow it. Just say, here, just pick this template and just do what Jim tells you. But the great thing about it is that it's a program that is based upon principles. Start light, progress slowly, compound weights, set rep PRs, and then later he added to be balanced. And those are great kind of philosophical things that are still underlie everything that I do today. I still tell, like I'm right now training my 2 sons and all that. They're making great strides. My youngest actually just the other week finally squatted 315, which was pretty cool, right? And so
always awesome when you get three wheels on both sides. Oh, yeah. That's a big deal.
It's a good milestone. So, and the thing is that I just always keep it's like, look, just start light, progress slowly, right? You just need to if you make 1 more rep or add 5 more pounds, you're making progress. That's all there is to it. Slow progress is still progress. So I did a lot of that for a while, but then past couple of years, basically, I started getting a little too hungry for trying to get big, trying to get strong and all this. And so I started, I'd have little minor pec tears or other little things like that because I'd get a little stupid. And I think also just as I'm getting older, I'm going to turn 51 here in a few days. There were just too many things that were just beating my body up because I wasn't being smart enough about things. But a couple of years ago, I started changing to be a bit more hypertrophy and bodybuilding-ish focused. I know I don't look it, but and that's really what I've been focusing a lot lately has been that. But still trying to work still on being strong because there's still quite a lot of utility in that. I'm a lot smarter about it now, and I'm lifting more. I follow a lot, especially the stuff from Paul Carter and guys like Chris Beardsley. A lot of good scientific stuff. The Renaissance periodization guys, Mike Israetel and such. John Meadows, who he passed away just a little ago, but John was amazing. And I will tell you that a 20-degree incline on incline bench is amazing for your upper pecs. 20 degrees is the magic stuff, and that's a John Meadows thing. Mm-hmm. Sorry, little aside.
Unfortunately, all I have is a flat bench.
Yeah. Well, all you can do is he always was a proponent of slight inclines. So take like a 25-pound plate, prop it up under one end so you get a slight little incline.
Yep, absolutely. I have done that a little bit. And I also, of course, now this is backwards from the incline, but I've got a dip bar as well.
Oh,
but
great.
yeah, I do need to add more incline plate. Yeah, that's a good idea.
But to your point about my training on it, that's what my training has been a lot. Is these days is I'm still trying to be strong. I'm still trying to make things go. But I'm trying to be obviously much smarter about it and understanding, especially as I'm getting older, that, recovery is different, because you've always got to make sure that, the muscles aren't made in the gym. The muscles are made after you leave the gym and you eat well, eat properly, and then rest a lot. That's where your strength comes. That's really what's going to build you up, is that just go in, get the gym, get the work done, but then get out of the gym, and don't overwork yourself. And so it's a lot about working smarter now as I get older. So, and the big thing with this though is still always trying to get a little bit more, like I said, another rep, another 5 pounds, another whatever, to still try to make sure I'm staying some semblance of strong, and still setting PRs where you can, because that's fun. That's a really a great thing about a lot of fitness things, especially one thing I love about lifting weights is you get a lot of instant feedback. You like, put it this way. Let me ask you guys, like, how long does it take you between, say, you learn, like you're doing jujitsu and you learn something, and how long do you think you need to kind of learn that and work that before you finally feel kind of like you accomplished it?
Well, I can try to take that. I would tell you there are techniques that as a purple belt I am still mastering.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say that like a basic technique that you learn in class, you to even take home a decent amount of capability with that technique, you need to have done it, 10, 15, 20 times,
Mm-hmm.
even during that class, and you need to work it more and more. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm still mastering a lot of techniques.
But it takes you some time, even if it's just, you got to work it for maybe just a couple sessions or whatever, for you to really feel like, okay, I think I got it, right? And to feel like you've made some kind of semblance of progress. It takes you time. The real cool thing that I love about lifting weights is that, man, if you just get one more rep, you did more, and like you progressed. And if you're doing things smart, hopefully session to session, you're going to be making progress like that. It slows down as your training age, like, someone who's been training for 1 month versus someone who's been training for a year versus someone who's training 10. The 10-year is going to require a little more work to see that same kind of progress. But I find that feedback to be very motivating. So, like, Aaron, to take it kind of back to your first question about, like, just, opening stuff about fitness, that's a really great thing that I love about any kind of lifting of weights, whether it's a bodybuilding or a powerlifting or kettlebells or Olympic or whatever. The ability to get and to see that kind of almost instantaneous feedback of progress can be hugely motivating and really help people stick with it. I think that's one reason I think things like walking or running never really felt, to me, I know to others it's different. I've had long conversations with my sister about, the running part, but it always just feel like, I don't necessarily feel like I'm making that kind of progress. I'm getting that feedback on it. It doesn't always feel motivating, like I'm getting somewhere. But when you added 5 more pounds or 1 more rep, or you hit a great PR, it's so satisfying, and there's such great progress. And that's what keeps you going. So you keep going to the gym and you keep doing it, because you always keep wanting to get better.
Well, John, I think maybe we can even, here in just a moment, maybe you can give, I don't know, the layman a basic program. I know that's asking a lot, but before we do that, you mentioned recovery.
Okay.
And this is not at all intended to be a commercial for Jocko Fuel, which happens to be a sponsor of EvoSec. But we were using this before. But so I've got my Mulk, my strawberry. By the way, I think this is delicious. But I've got a few supplements here that I use for recovery. What are your thoughts on supplements?
There are few supplements out there that are actually worth the money. Mm-hmm. Like you have, I'm assuming that is like a whey kind of protein powder.
It's a mixture. It's got casein in it as well.
But it's basically a protein powder.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And protein powders, absolutely, that is a useful supplement because it is a food. It should be, though, a supplement. Like, you shouldn't be getting all of your protein for. Like, for example, I need to get. I shoot for at least 200 grams of protein a day, but that can equate to about like 3 pounds of beef a day, and that's a lot of chewing.
Yeah,
it's a lot. If you look up guys like there's a elite level powerlifter named Blaine Sumner. And if you Google Blaine Sumner and chicken shakes, and you can go enjoy that and see what that's about. But the point is that you need to find ways to get all the extra protein. And so one thing that helps is in the afternoon, I'll have a glass of a couple scoops of protein powder, and things like that are definitely helpful and very useful. Other supplements like creatine monohydrate, definitely well studied, well vetted, well known that it is a useful supplement, not just obviously for muscle building, but there's been a lot more showing that it helps with things like cognitive ability and all that. So there's a lot of great stuff about creatine monohydrate, and just monohydrate. All the other creatines are just expensive.
Yeah.
Well,
and also studies have shown creatine to be very, very effective for endurance, muscular endurance as well. So, I mean, it helps with jujitsu, and it helps in a lot of things.
Creatine's useful. Yeah. And then caffeine is definitely another proven, performance enhancing supplement. But beyond that, it's a big crapshoot around whether supplements are really what they're going to bring you or not. It all varies. For example, I'm taking one called Hypnos right now from Chaos and Pain. No sponsor, no nothing. It's just a customer of, and I'm using it to help me sleep. It's like melatonin and valerian root and magnesium and zinc and stuff like that, and it's actually working quite well compared to any of those other kinds of aids that have helped me and all that. It's a help. Because sleep is very important for recovery. But a lot of other supplements and things like that. I should say this. Shall we say over-the-counter supplements that you can buy at the GNC or whatever?
Yeah.
Because there's always supplements like testosterone replacement and all that. And will I say, is that a supplement, if you will, that works? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. Straight up, I've been doing testosterone replacement therapy for about 7 years, and it's a beautiful thing.
So what I would tell you, John, is that I've talked about it a little bit on the air as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I am on testosterone treatment as well. I blame my days as a soldier and all that weird sleep. That's what a lot of doctors. It's very common in soldiers to be on the lower side. And so, I've been on it about 4 years now.
It's life-changing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And really it boiled down to, I was just tired all the time. Folks will think, oh man, folks think it's about, sexual performance. Had zero to do with it. I just felt like crap.
Mm-hmm.
I was real tired and had my levels checked, and what I will tell you this, it's kind of a funny note.
Mm-hmm.
My insurance came and sent me a letter and said, hey, your levels are consistently above 800. This does not warrant continued use of this, of this treatment. I'm like, the reason I'm on it is because it was low in the first place.
Right. The reason it's not there is because I'm on the treatment, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So, and what's unfortunate, may have piqued their interest, was because my last 2 tests were right after a shot, which is when it's at the peak.
Sure.
But anyway, that's another story. Aaron, you had your hand raised up, brother. What's up?
Well, I was just going to say that my wife has hoped that my testosterone would go down.
Yeah, Aaron, I'm going to tell you, man, that is one, if you want to call it a, I'm trying to think of the way to put this. That is a side effect of these shots. It is a side effect.
And of course, I'm totally joking. I might need some. I haven't even ever had mine tested, but
you should at least have it tested, Aaron.
And I would say this is actually, I think, even more important really than the testosterone thing. And I'll give you a thing here that when I first started, I went to a place that was, because nowadays it's a big money making, industry in order to do this, right? And I went to a place, and it was pretty evident that what they were mostly concerned about was like the ability to just kind of make the money and give me the shot and just do whatever, right? And that's fine, because I was completely agreeable with that too, right? When I moved out of Austin and I moved here to Bryan, I had to find a new provider. And I found a place that was actually a lot more holistic about everything. Like they didn't just do like blood tests, like just do a CBC and testosterone levels. They actually test for just about everything. I mean, I was getting my thyroid check. They're checking ferritin levels. They're checking my vitamin D levels, my vitamin B, everything. That was one of the best things that actually ever came out of this. Wasn't so much like where my testosterone was, but being able to get a good read on not just all the standard things of, your lipid panel and, your blood cell count or whatever, but being able, like, for example, I ended up seeing that I was very low on B vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And so she told me to start taking a vitamin B12 supplement. And so I started doing that. Now I've taken enough stuff, other kinds of supplements or things or whatever on and off over the years that I have a bit of a protocol that I'll use to, like, okay, go on it for a little while, go off it for a little while, go on it for a little while off, so I can actually see, like, is it really making an effect or is it other things in my life or, placebo or whatever? And no question, like getting the B12 supplementation, that alone made a huge difference. I actually realized here was a weird one. I kept wondering why I kept having all these readings and stuff that were showing me that I was like looking like I was borderline anemic and low on iron. And it turned out that because one of the things that, will happen with the replacement therapy is it will, you'll end up generating more red blood cells. And so it can push your hemoglobin, hematocrit levels to higher levels. And so you've got to donate blood regularly to just get your counts down. And because I was donating very regularly, every 2 months to do that I believe, I can only hypothesize that this is why, but that constant donation. And then I probably wasn't doing always, even though no matter how much red meat I was eating or whatever, it was keeping my iron low. And so I've been on an iron supplement and it's made a world of difference because I'm actually measuring it. Just like that's why we use shot timers. That's why we have metrics.
Mm-hmm.
We want to measure it so we can know. So I'd say to everyone, it's like, it's not just in a lot of regards, especially if you think about supplementation or fitness or health or whatever, a great thing would be go to your doctor, whether they understand fitness or not. Go to your doctor, get a physical, get checked out, and see about getting as comprehensive of a blood panel as you can get.
Can't agree more.
Say, if your doctor doesn't want to do it or comply, believe me, there's lots of places you can just go that you can go to a lab and you can get the draws done yourself. There's lots of ways, lots of places. Having that knowledge of actually what's going on inside of you is huge. And that should direct how you do supplementation, how you orient things and so forth.
Well, and John, if I can add to that, I used to hate going to the doctor when I was younger. Now I welcome every single panel that I can get, just because I like to monitor, and that's actually where the testosterone came from. Is just that time I want to check it, and so I have 2 doctors, and one is an endocrinologist, and man, she is thorough as hell.
Great.
She checks everything. And so I think that's crucial. And I do think it's crucial that folks really pay attention, not just your yearly physical. If you can at least get 2 full panels a year, at least try for 2.
Agreed.
Because it makes a big, big difference. And you can monitor, like if you change your diet, you can see how your lipid levels change.
Exactly.
And, one time I'll just bring up this story because it was an interesting one, is when I got on a real strict keto diet for a while, and all of my lipids and my triglycerides went down. They were at a healthy level, but, that my cholesterol is always a little bit on the top end of normal, but I also have a very, very high HGL. Like my HGL ranges in the 60s, 70s on a normal basis. And my doctor's like, yeah, those numbers that high, even with the, cholesterol in the hundreds, you're just fine. It completely evens that out. But anyway, what I was getting at, not making this about me, but my doctor, she said, your level's all down basically around 20 points. How did you change something? I said, yeah, I'm eating 50, 60% fat now. Now I'm not eating that strict keto right now.
Right.
I'm kind of going back like Aaron. I'm in a cutting phase right now myself. But she said, "How did you do that?" And I said, "No, I'm just eating a lot more fat. I'm eating ketogenic." And she goes, "No way." And what's interesting about it is this is my doctor back in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "No way." And what was interesting, this is doctors for you.
Right.
Sometimes they get into their normal methodologies and philosophy and or their knowledge of medicine
or beliefs.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Biases,
And she was in disbelief. No way. But she started studying it. The next time I saw her, because she had put on a little bit of weight at that, and the next time I saw her, she had lost maybe 20 pounds. I said, "What?" I said, "You're looking really good." And she said, "Yeah, the talk I had with you, I went on a keto and I'm prescribing it to my patients now." And it was interesting.
That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome. I mean, that not to give any doctors a hard time, but that's something that people fail to realize. Like most doctors are not nutritionists. And they're not up on the health thing. Like if they know a lot about this, it's not their specialty, like they're just a GP or something. It's often just because they personally have their own interest in it.
Yep.
But a lot of the family doctors, they don't know this stuff. They can't support it, and they just kind of know whatever they got taught back in medical school 20 years ago, right? And they haven't kept up with it. So that's really great that you had a doctor that was willing to listen and then go do some more research and to learn and saw things about it. And that's fantastic to hear, man.
Yeah, I miss her, man. She was a phenomenal doctor.
Well, guys, I just wanted to interject that what I love hearing about this is, you guys suggesting people go get their blood panels done, etc. Just like how fitness itself, or let's just say situational awareness, verbal jujitsu, all those things we know that are extremely important. To me, that's almost akin to those types of things. But in the fitness side of it and the health side, I don't hear anybody suggesting getting blood panels done. I loved hearing you guys talk about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really revealing, because you think that you feel great and you think that you're all good, but you just don't realize little deficiencies that you can have that can make a huge difference in you. And so you've got to go, you got to measure it. And most people don't talk about that for whatever reason. I mean, I think it's like a lot of things. It ain't sexy. It ain't, the fun. Like we all love to go throw 1,000 rounds down range on the weekend, right? But taking a course about legal or, stuff or medical classes or whatever, like that's not always sexy and fun, right? And it's the same kind of thing here. It's like everyone wants to talk about lifting weights, which is great, and we all want to talk about, what our favorite kind of competition style bench is, whether you want the Alico bench or you're cool with the Texas Strength Systems or whatever. That's cool to talk about. But really, the real meat of it is having true, deeper understanding of what's going on with you, so you can actually get where you want to go.
Well, and John, if I can add a couple of things to that,
Please.
You mentioned D. Vitamin D affects your testosterone levels.
Oh yeah.
And also speaking of cholesterol and eggs, cholesterol is a precursor for testosterone. So everybody's down on cholesterol. If you don't have healthy levels of cholesterol, and where your body can use it, your testosterone is going to be lower.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead.
You're right. Keep going. You're right.
So I one of the things that when I first took note that my levels were low, I used a protocol of all people that suggested was Tim Ferriss of the Tim Ferriss podcast. Increased my eggs. Like I probably was eating double the eggs that I know, and I would eat eggs at night for that increase in cholesterol, which is again was part of his protocol. Brazilian nuts, and I increased D, zinc, and magnesium, and all that, and my testosterone went up 100 points.
Oh yeah, if you were like I remember that there's a supplement called ZMA. It's zinc, magnesium, and then like vitamin B6 and all that. And it's touted as a testosterone booster and all this. And the reality is it's not. Like if you have healthy testosterone levels, it's not going to make them supra maximal. But if you're low, if you have a deficiency, it absolutely affects you. And so having those levels, at correct, having that good it makes a huge difference as well. Because again, right? So it's back to the same thing we're talking about. It's having the knowledge so that because if you want supplements, it's like, dude, there's a lot of stuff out there. Believe me, go to any supplement store and you'll see just the shelf after shelf of it all. But then when you can know what your body actually needs, because I left out like talking about like vitamins. Yeah, that matters. I take 15,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, and that keeps my levels where they need to be. And I know that because I've gotten my vitamin D checked over the years.
Yeah. D is huge, man. It really is. And John, so one of the things because you mentioned multivitamins, in today's agricultural methodologies, unfortunately, a lot of nutrition is not in your vegetables and fruit like it used to be. And this is one thing I know I'm plugging certain products, I think, but I feel great when I take this Jocko green drink, or any kind of drink. Organifi, I'm just going to bring up other brands I think people should consider. Organifi works great. This Jocko greens taste delicious. Organifi tastes good.
I drink that green drink as the first thing I wake up in the morning. I drink that. And Eric, I just wanted to ask you if you're Alex Jones over there selling vitamins.
I am sounding like, and I'm being real careful because I admit, because
I'm sorry to throw us on a tangent, bro. But and you can get back to this, but I don't like Howard Stern. He's a freaking goofball. But man, I just caught his show, and someone was doing an Alex Jones little skit, and then he went into this supplement pitch. It was awesome.
That is great. Yeah. I tell you, it is funny. We're talking about important things, but it is funny to think, okay, what's the perception on this? Anyway, I'm gonna shut up,
bro. That stuff is good. That stuff is good.
And Eric, you raise an excellent point that a lot of times our food isn't, the sourcing of it isn't as, if you will, I guess, nutrition packed, if you will, as it has been. One good cure that helps with that, folks, buy local.
Yes, absolutely.
Make friends with your local farmers, your local ranchers, and go to your farmers markets, get your beef local, buy your stuff. And of course, if you've got the ability to start learning how to grow your own food and do all that, my wife, she has always enjoyed trying to garden and growing like vegetables and things like that for us to eat. And for the longest time, for most of our life, it was always, she was working out of like large pots and things like that on our patios and such. And now here in our new house, we had put in a nice raised bed, a 4x12 raised bed. And I am swimming in tomatoes right now.
Yep.
They're wonderful. Little Juliet tomatoes. They're just wonderful to snack on. It's great. But it's that kind of thing. It's like having that ability, that's going to help you great. Because again, like I said, it's like supplements are supplements, but real food is ultimately where it's at. Yes. Supplements are nice to add in, help you get those little things. I'll take a multivitamin every day just to try to help out, add a little more, especially because, here's another thing on that. If you just follow a strict USRDA diet and just get that 100% of everything, you are going to be woefully deficient.
Absolutely.
USRDA does not really cut it, especially if you're going to be a more active person.
Well, and John, I will say one other thing about the types of green drinks for folks that are into preparedness. If you're storing a bunch of food and you're not storing some kind of green supplement, I recommend that highly.
That's an excellent suggestion. Because I know a lot of times it's storing beans and rice kind of things or whatever, but you need the greens and you need all that extra. And you could even say like having multivitamins, having a few other little things to keep you up like that. It may not be as comprehensive as your normal supplementation mechanism, but just having like a 1-a-day multivitamin can go a long ways.
Well, hey, you guys are making me feel a little better. I've got some multivitamins upstairs where I keep my year's worth of food. But Eric, and I kind of overstepped you there, buddy. Keep going. And
No, that's all I had, honestly, Aaron, on that subject.
well, I'll tell you, I think we've covered fairly well, at least at the ground level of what people should look into with the 531 program that you talked about.
That's a good one.
That getting started, again, starting strength, etc., but getting into a weight program, it's so funny, guys. And then we'll move on to some red meat kind of topics for fun. But it's amazing how the most important things for all of us to work on, from firearms to combatives to just looking around the parking lot to fitness, it all comes down to some pretty simple stuff.
It is. Mm-hmm.
And so strength, it sounds like you prescribe to that same concept, at least starting out, like you said, the 531. Can you name that gentleman's name again real quick on the 531?
Jim Wendler, Wendler, Jim Wendler.
Excellent.
And for whatever it's worth, he's a absolute laugh riot to also just to listen to. He's just a hoot of a dude. Smart dude, wickedly smart dude. And in fact, one of the things that just as a minor digression for a minute, one group that I really love is there's a company called Elite FTS. And it's founded by a guy named Dave Tate, and Dave and Jim go way back. And Elite FTS has a podcast called the Elite FTS Table Talk Podcast. And I really like listening to that one, especially the episodes where they have Jim on there. He'll have Jim. They have Matt Rhodes, is another buddy of theirs. And what's great is that like Jim is actually, he's a high school strength coach for their football team and all this. And he works with kids a lot. And one of the things that's been really enjoyable about it is that, one, you get a lot of insight into teaching people and training people, which is really kind of neat, because it's like, look, when you're teaching and training people, whether you're lifting weights or shooting guns or how to write code or whatever it may be, it's all the same thing, right? Leading people, it's all the same thing. And I have found some of my best learnings have been from the gym or from other meatheads, if you will, like that has extrapolated really well either into my day job, professional life, doing software and IT work and whatever, or also to the firearms world of teaching people how to shoot or whatever it may be. And that's been really a lot of great stuff. So Jim Wendler, 531 is a great thing. Some other names, if people, to just other things, if you want to look at, again, there's that John Meadows was a good guy. Mountain Dog was how he was known. There's Paul Carter, who's another guy I pay attention to a lot. Again, Dave Tate's been really great. Mark Ripito with Starting Strength. And frankly, for a lot of people, Starting Strength may be a great place to start because it's incredibly simple. And you really kind of just, if you just have a barbell and a bench and a rack, you can do all of that. So you don't need a whole lot to get going with it either. So starting,
John, you've met Nick Del Gaudio, haven't you?
We've kind of like, we've exchanged a few words in passing, but we have not had the opportunity to really sit down and talk. But yes, I know about Nick. Yes,
he's a great dude. Shout out to Nick. He's actually because this Starting Strength book that both Aaron and I held up were gifts from him, because my Starting Strength book that I have downstairs is an old one.
Yeah,
and this had a few.
Do I actually still have mine? Oh no, there is mine back there. Yeah, I've got one of the older ones with the the yellow, orange, or whatever cover. Yeah,
that's the version I have, exactly. Yep. And yeah, cool. Yeah, but Nick's a great dude, and of course he's a certification coach for Starting Strength, and a brown belt in jiu-jitsu as well.
That's what I'm saying. And he can shoot. He's a beast of a dude.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, he's a beast of a dude.
We took the advanced Rangemaster IDC with him at KR training.
Oh, neat.
So, yep.
I didn't know he was in that class. That's awesome. Very cool. But yeah, like you had asked earlier, like places for people to start. Here's what I will just say about starting in general. Find something that you like. Really doesn't matter what it is. And if you try something and you don't like it, try something else. Just keep trying till you find something that sticks. Because I don't, even though, yes, personally, the three of us are kind of biased towards, strength. It's not everybody's thing. So, to tell people to sit there and just go get a barbell and go lift. If you don't like lifting, if that's just not your thing, because like my wife, not her thing at all. Right. But she likes kettlebells. Kettlebells are fun to swing and kettlebells are fun to do. So you try that. And so that's the thing is like, find what you like. Like I said, even if it's just walking, do that. Find something simple, find something small, and start with a baby step. That's really the way to do it. And find something, because if people are like, yeah, I'm going to do it, because most people, they have those big things. I'm going to change all this stuff overnight, and I'm going to do all this stuff, and they make something that's way too big, and they can never actually tackle it. Maybe they do it one day, but by the end of the week, it's they've dropped off and given up. Right? Start small. Start light, progress slowly. Nice little 5-3-1 philosophy there, and just do that. Just pick something easy, go with it. But if you do like strength and you want to try lifting weights and all that stuff, I think starting strength is a great way to go. 5-3-1 is a great way because they're simple, they're effective, they work. You will get stronger, you will get better. And then after you do the simple things like that, you can start, you'll learn more, you'll know more, and then you can start branching out into all kinds of different ways of whatever specific thing you really enjoy.
Excellent.
Well, and for what it's worth, I'm not a CrossFit hater. I mean, I'll give them a hard time, but if you like doing CrossFit, dude, you'll be awesome too. Do that. Nothing wrong.
CrossFit has gotten a lot of people fit.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's done more for fitness than most things have in the past. I don't know how many years. Oh yeah.
Yep.
CrossFit.
Absolutely.
Good deal.
So, all right.
Well, excellent talk on that, man. I learned even more than I hoped. So thank you.
Welcome.
Now,
by the way, I'll insert the disclaimer that I am not a medical professional or anything like that. I'm just a dumb meathead. So
yeah, we have to say those things often, because we were
everybody
talking
make
about
sure that is the caveat. Make sure before you do anything, check with your doctor. Make sure you're healthy enough to start any exercise program.
I need to write a note to make sure I put that in the show notes.
And I'll say this, if your doctor sits there and poo-poos you trying to move or say you can't do this or you're going to hurt yourself, get a second opinion. I'm not saying that it may not be a case depending what your situation is, but again, not every doctor truly understands or truly knows. A lot of times finding a true sports doctor that understands athletics and stuff could give you a better more even kind of assessment of what you need and where you are. So
well said. Yeah, like Aaron said, I mean, this just been a awesome conversation on fitness, strength, and whatnot. And it was fun to talk the supplements too, because I think those are a lot of important things to consider.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we all love to shoot. So how about let's talk a little bit of shooting?
Sure.
Because that's another one of your areas of expertise. I mean, let's just jump in. So, you've written a lot about training, etc. With your author partner Carl Wren, and so it'd be fun to pick your brain again, just to jump right in.
Sure.
To talk about what your current training focus is with whatever firearm it is. If it's a snub nose or a bazooka, what are you working on these days?
I'm on that snub nose actually. So what happened was, I guess maybe this was probably back in November or so. Actually, I was at the gym and I was lifting, and I was dumbbell bench pressing, and I got the 95s up, and I'm sitting there and I hit I think it was on the 6th rep, and something felt weird in my left wrist, like almost, because it's just a bunch of floating bones in here, and just something felt like it just kind of shifted in a not good way. And so I go down for the 7th rep, and my body said, "No, don't do that," and I stopped. Now I do think that it wasn't just that. I think that was kind of what put over the edge. I think it's also some poor postural issues while typing a lot at work all day. And that, I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily carpal tunnel, but when you have yourself in kind of contorted positions and things like that all day long, it doesn't, do well for your body. And you put it all together, and something was not happy. And so I couldn't do a lot. I mean, I literally had some strength problems with it. Like, you ever like hold a dinner plate in your hand and you kind of like, you tuck it into your palm. So like your thumb is on top and your fingers are underneath, kind of fanned out to kind of support the plate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you walk down the buffet line, you got to hold it. I couldn't do that. If I put it in my hand, the weight that was over like my pinky, I would just basically just drop it.
Wow.
I could not support it. Something was bad. So very soon after all this, after a little just, resting and doing nothing, I went to go shoot. And I could not, at the time I was shooting my SIG P365, had the Wilson Combat XL frame grip module and a red dot on it, and Holosun 507K for those curious. And I couldn't get through like 100 rounds without my hand and my wrist just being in just excruciating pain. I couldn't do it.
Wow.
So I had to stop. But it was interesting because at the time, some people in my in one of my circles here, most notably Mark Lewell, Growing Up Guns, Brandon Hizak, Hizzy Biscuits, and I was talking also with Matt Hare, a few other people, and also and I spent a lot of time around people like Chuck Haggard and so forth. And what ended up, we all started talking about this stuff, and there was like, this whole talk about the Ruger LCR in 22 was a thing, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And of course, with ammo like the new Federal Punch, that really does a whole lot to make like 22 very much more viable as an ammo source or as a load in 22. And also around this time, there's a gentleman named Rhett Naumeyer of Demonstrated Concepts. And Rhett, if you don't know anything about Rhett, he's a wizard, Harry. And the things that he's doing a lot of very unorthodox things, whether it's about cheek welds or deep concealment. I mean, here's a guy sitting here getting deep concealment draws of like a second and a half, and he's doing some just crazy, crazy things. Very, very skilled, very, very talented. It's really wild, the stuff that Red is doing. And the whole deep concealment stuff really caught my eye too. And then you couple that with that LCR 22. And if you also go back to Mark Lewell's the Growing Up Guns notion of what he calls the underwear gun. Y'all familiar with that concept? The underwear gun, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And he put it all together and I was like, oh, isn't this interesting? So I went and I picked myself up LCR in 22 and picked myself up a bunch of Federal Punch. And that's what I've been doing lately. And I then, at first it was just like, well, here's this. And I just started picking up like just belt holsters just to try and just to see it and all this. And now what I'm actually doing is I've got a Filster Enigma Express for the LCR, and I carry it deep. So the grip is below my belt line. So if I raise up my shirt, you see nothing.
Nice.
Everything's down there. And so it's great because like the gun itself loaded with, 8 rounds of the Federal Punch, it's like 14 ounces. So it's under a pound. And I actually need to put like the whole rig, the gun and the Filster Enigma and all that stuff onto the scale. But it's not more than a pound and change.
Wow.
So, and I will tell you, wearing it down below your belt, kind of in that, for lack of a better term, the fupa area, right? It's the most comfortable carry that I've ever had in my life.
Nice.
It's crazy how comfortable. And now for me, on my body, I'm not saying this will be the same for everybody out there. It's just me, my body, my stuff, my positioning, my whatever. But that's been amazing. Now, and I spent a little time talking with Rhett and got some things about, technique and things for the draw and for the shooting, how he does all this. And so that's what I've been working on. And of course, I still horrendously suck at it because, when you got a snub revolver that's already going to have crappy sights, right? And my eyes are just not what they used to be. It's been hard. And it's just still a whole lot to work on. And I'm going to be a little, open here about something. Life has not been very grand for me in a personal way for the past some months. It's just there's been a lot of stress and a lot of, like my marriage is good and things are good and, life is generally good. There's just been a lot of things that have made life very challenging for me. And So like a lot of my motivation for a while to like dry practice and go to the range and shoot and do things just hasn't been there, just straight up. Though thankfully there's a lot of things I'm coming out of it, and I'm feeling a lot better. And I've been dry practicing more. That just this past week already, and it's been good. But that's what I'm doing now. So I'm trying to go back to shooting the larger guns and all that stuff, but it's really hard to, Oh, and speaking of TACCon, here's the other thing that really gets it. At TACCon, I sat in on Daryl Bolke's class of mouse gun mindset. You're nodding. Did you all sit in that one at all?
No, but I knew exactly when you said duh, I knew what you were going to say.
Yeah. And what I really appreciated about that class or that talk or whatever, however you want to phrase it, that Daryl did, is it's a really big difference of mindset of how, if you want to carry a gun like that, it's a different mindset. And like the easiest way I can put it is like, I'm at a point in my life where I am not going hunting for trouble. Right.
Right.
I that is not my position in life anymore, to go hunting for the trouble. I'm at a position of, if the trouble comes to me, I need to deal with the trouble, and I need the trouble to get off of me and to go away and to stop, that kind of thing. And so it's a very different mindset and a very different approach that you have to have when you carry a gun like that, And so I really, really appreciated Daryl's talk and his approach on all that. And so you put this all together, and it's really gotten me compelled to a point where I've actually been teaching classes. And it's a class full of students all shooting semi-autos and I'm teaching it with that little LCR. And it's a little weird. It's a little bit of an adjustment, to have to do that with some things. Because sometimes like I have to talk about reloads. So I bring an assistant up and have them be my Vanna White and demonstrate it while I'll talk them through that or whatever, right? So it's a little bit different of a thing, but I've been enjoying that as a carry mode, as a carry piece. And that's something I'm enjoying. It's a new challenge. It's a different thing to have to work. It's a different thing to have to do. And I appreciate the ability to have something that carries fairly comfortably, is a bit more friendly to non-permissive environments, and all that, having the deeper concealment. And it's just something that I still need to continue working on, like we all do with things. So that's what I'm doing right now. So that's where my focus and my work in my own personal is at this point.
So John, I'm just curious of you. Maybe you've taken it. Have you taken the MPE counter robbery class?
Oh, I have not, but I know that's the Cecil, Daryl, Chuck thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're having Cecil on again this week as well.
Oh, fantastic.
We just talked with him about that and some jiu-jitsu conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I think you're a motivated person. You know what you need to do anyway. But I just was curious if you played around with that.
Class. Yeah, that's one that should be on my list. Is if I can make work, I want to.
I think there's one, and I told Cecil Cecil isn't paying us to. I mean, he's a friend. We wouldn't ask for that in the first place. But I'm just saying this out loud that we're going to push that class over the air as often as we can. Yeah. But I believe there's one the 1st through the 3rd, I think it is, of September. I'll make sure that I have that correct and put it in the show notes. But we're going to start pimping that for those 3 gentlemen because we want to get a lot of people in those courses.
Yeah. And I am taking Greg Elifritz is actually doing his close quarters pistol over here at KR Training next month. And so I signed up for that again, specifically because, with this little gun here, it's perfect. I said, hey, Greg, is it cool if I do this and have the deep concealment and all this stuff? He's like, oh, that's perfect.
Awesome.
So that's neat. So yeah, but yeah, no, absolutely. Anything, really, when you get people like Cecil Birch and Chuck Haggard and Daryl Bolke all together, you don't know the caliber and the quality of the instruction that you're going to receive. If you listeners here don't know who these people are and don't know the caliber and the quality of what you're going to get, I encourage you to go seek out these 3 gentlemen, if not for this NPE counter class, any of the things that they do, you will not be disappointed at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen,
awesome, gentlemen.
For sure. Well, I'll just say, when you said LCR, it's funny. I've been. This is kind of. Let's just be frank. This is kind of a hip trend, but it's a hip trend with a bunch of legit people. And so, months ago, I started thinking, I kind of want an LCR. And I started looking at it. I thought, when you're used to Glocks, being $500, when you look at a price on a LCR, it's like, man, of course it's not super expensive, but it was more than I expected. I was like, well, I'll wait a little while on that.
Yeah.
And I'm mad at myself because I had an LCR 38 and I don't sell guns very often. But for some reason I was like, yeah, I want a 642. I'll sell my. Now I'm mad at myself. I wish I'd have kept it.
They're solid.
If anything, the thing that I do love about the LCR is that I could replace the front sight with it.
Yes.
I put an XS tritium big dot on it, and that I could run that pistol a lot better using that sight.
Nice.
And yeah, so I'm mad at myself. I sold that damn.
Well,
if you really want to do the hip revolver thing now, it's what the Taurus 856. That's the new hotness, right?
Oh, really? Okay.
Is it really?
That's supposedly the new. I think it's the Taurus. I think it's 856. I'm starting. Let's see here. Is it 856? Is that what it is? I think it is. Or 856. That's like, I know that's been like the new hotness that everybody's like in loving and all that stuff.
What caliber is it?
I believe 38.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I have to admit I haven't been following it like horrendously close and all that.
I would say, sometimes I'll have dudes at work come to me and ask me about some newer pistol, and I'm embarrassed to say that there's a lot of times I'm not paying attention to it. Now, every time we take one of Tom's classes or take a class with other folks, I'm reminded that, we're trying to help people out, teaching our classes here and there. And I should be paying attention more, at least to field questions, So I'm just being honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard. It is absolutely hard to keep up because so many things are always coming out. And, especially then when you have, 90% of the students are all coming with, Glocks or SIGs or M&Ps or whatever. And then you get the, the occasional HKs and you get all these other things. And then you get the weird, obscure stuff. And you're just like, dude, I can't keep up.
Well, heck, it's not really perfectly germane, but I just now got myself another shotgun that's in the background here. So, I've been behind on some areas in my shooting.
Yeah. But the one thing I know with the Taurus stuff is that I know they have, Caleb Giddings is now over there, and it looks like he is making a really great impact on, because he's a wizard with the revolver, and it looks like he's bringing a lot of good things to Taurus and helping to turn a lot of things around and making some good things happen. So, that's very encouraging to end up seeing. So, that I think that plays a little bit of the part into this kind of revolver resurgence that's kind of happening right now.
Well, and Claude Werner has been talking on 22s and talking on revolvers for a while, and
Claude
I think he's the OG on that, man.
Yeah, he's at
least one of them.
I mean, I took one of my first revolver classes was with Claude. Jeez, I don't know how long ago, but yeah, it was with Claude. He was quite the man for that.
Why we haven't had Claude on this show yet, I'm kicking myself in the rear.
Oh, you need to know that, gentlemen.
Yeah, we will. And Claude, if you're out there and if you possibly listen to this, we'll be reaching out to you or reach out to us as well. But really, he deserves to have us reach out to him. Goodness.
Claude, I love that Claude he goes off and does his own thing and contributes just massive amounts of like meaningful data to everything. And one thing I always appreciate about Claude, he looked at people from the beginning. Like one of the things that I remember sorry for just a small digression about Claude.
No, cool.
Because he's been a big influence on me. One of the things that I loved was he would talk about, like when he was starting to talk about like courses of fire or here, have this standards course or this thing. And he would literally sit there and say, here, you're going to take the student and you're going to give them an empty magazine and one round, and then they'll load that round. They'll put the round in the magazine and put the magazine into the gun, and then rack the slide, load the gun, shoot the gun, take the magazine out, do all this. He didn't take for granted the need to teach people how to load a magazine, how to load a gun, how to unload a gun, how to safely bench a gun, little things like that. And it's amazing how much something like that is taken for granted by so many people, so many instructors.
It is.
Years ago, it like seeing that from Claude, was like, I had an opportunity to revise our over KR training, our basic Pistol 1 curriculum. And so when I was revising it, that was something I put in, that like, it's like when the class first goes to the range, it's a very slow, kind of tedious first, string, but it's literally like, take your gun, load one into the mag, put one in the mag, one out of the magazine, load the gun, shoot one round, unload the gun, put this here. And it's a very slow, long, tedious thing, especially if you're in the second relay who's not shooting. But it's absolutely so vital to have that. And so that's one of the things I always really appreciated about Claude, was his understanding of the way the rest of the world really works. Whether it's understanding how you really need to teach beginners, calling them not students, but clients, because that's what they are, right? And or things like understanding, what is it? I think Sherman House actually just wrote a blog post. We're talking again about the Claude Werner test, which is all about having proper concealment, because not everybody can dress like a tactical hobo all day long. Right? You got to wear scrubs. You have to wear a suit because you got to go work at a law firm or whatever, right? It's a whole different. And if you get made, you're gone, and that's the end of your career, right? So all these great things, I always appreciated that kind of stuff about Claude. So yeah, so hopefully, Claude, if you are listening, please come on the podcast here and talk.
Yeah, and it's our fault because we have not. There's always it's interesting. Not Aaron can attest to this. When we first started this podcast, Aaron, I'll just let you chime in on this. At some point, we're thinking, man, are we going to run out of guests? Nope. It is never. There is never. If anything, we like to have, and we're starting to do this more. We're starting to have a lot of folks on that we just like having back on, who are willing to support us. But we are never without a guest.
It's great.
And so I say that to say this, it is doom on me, because it's funny. I think that was Richard Marcinko used to say that. And I think he was imitating some of what they said in Vietnam back then, but doom on me for not reaching out to him yet. So Claude, if you are listening, sorry, buddy. I've been thinking about it for probably 2 or 3 years. You're a phenomenal contributor to the industry. We'll make. I'm writing a note.
I was about to say, it's like, dude, time to get off the pot, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, heck, last week, we talked about carbine, and I posted some of his carbine postings for shorter distance qualifications, and so yeah, I mean, we're talking about Claude all the time. So
that's, ladies and gentlemen, that shows you just the influence and the power and just the impact that Claude Werner has had. So I often tell people, it's like, I throw these names out and they're like, I don't know who that is. Okay, you have homework.
Yeah.
So if we're these names that you've been hearing all through this episode here, folks, if you don't recognize who these names are, well, you're listening to this on your phone or on your computer or something. So I know you can just pull up a browser and just go to Google and punch their name in. You got homework.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. Well, amazing enough, we're getting close to right at, we're almost at an hour and 30. I can't spit it out.
Oh gosh.
We got lots of fun conversation about the self-defense, self-protection, health, etc. Man, let's talk about music before we get off here.
Sure.
Now, and let's jump right into this, because I have a feeling we might have to stop ourselves from talking about music because of how much we all love it, and how much I know you love it. Now, I've seen some pictures of you back in the day. Now, you played guitar, right?
I did.
In some bands.
I
Man,
did.
tell us a little bit about that because when you're younger and you do that stuff, Eric and I we played gigs, wherever people would let us play when we were
Oh, yeah.
18, 19, 20 years old. And then I went further and further. But the fact is, making music with people, even if you're not famous or if you're playing in front of 20 people or whatever at a small club, it's a freaking blast. And
Oh, it
people
is.
have to hear that side of it. And so, since that's something I don't think you talk about a ton, man, let's hear about that life a little bit.
Oh, well, I'll first say that it really wasn't much life or wasn't much of anything. It was, uh, it was during my time when I was an undergraduate. So yeah, I was, 18 to 21 years old kind of thing. And, I goof around with some friends, and maybe you jam a little this or do a little thing here, or we'd ad hoc form a little band and then just play like in someone's basement during a party or something like that, right? Because it was
Which
just
is a
fun.
blast too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, there's even one that I even remember that like it was literally like we had talked about just me and a bunch of friends had just talked about something, and then that afternoon we kind of just got together in somebody's living room and just kind of pounded through figuring out like a couple songs or whatever. And then that night, that evening, then we just got up and played it. So it's like, we had a whole whopping, like, I don't know, from 12 hours from beginning to end of putting together a band and finding songs and then playing the gig. So but it was,
Rock on.
I mean, but
Cool.
it's just it's just you're young and just drinking a lot of beer and having a good night, and it's just fun, right? But the one that really then ended up happening was so believe it or not, actually, I was going to originally go into a career. My plan originally was to go into a career in radio. Is what I wanted to do. That's what I was actually studying for. I have a minor in music industry studies and all that. Yeah, and so I was doing that. Well, and that whole thing ended up just I was getting ready to graduate, and I started to have to look for a job, and it was like, oh, so how much money do you make here? Quick math. So I can afford rent or food.
Yeah.
Not and, or. And so I was like, and I basically panicked and decided to avoid the real world for 2 more years. And that's why I went to grad school, which worked out well because that's what brought me to Texas A&M, brought me to Texas. And then the rest of my life, here I am, right? So it's a good thing, meeting the wife and all this kind of stuff. But what happened was when I was working at one of the local, I worked at the local top 40 station. It was Q101, the Valley's best music mix, where I played the likes of Celine Dion and Hathaway. It was early 90s, man. It was John Williams running the midnight to 6 a.m. shift many times, because when you're the FNG, that's the shift you get, right? But what happened was the guy who was the hot afternoon drive DJ is a guy named Dennis Hughes. He and I started talking, and he's telling me he's got a band, and he was played drums and all that. And so I came and jammed with him one night, and then I got brought into the band, and that was really kind of cool, because we were trying to be as somewhat serious. We obviously had cover tunes, but we worked on writing originals, and we played any gig that we could. Whether it was playing at local bars or playing, I do remember like the university ended up having a battle of the bands kind of thing, and we ended up participating in that. And, so we just do whatever in the world that we could, wherever we could play, and very light touring. Like we would, I think the furthest gig we did was up in Winchester, which was like 50 miles away, nothing too big. But you're right. It was a lot of fun being able to do that and to be up, because it is something to be said about being on stage and in front of people and letting yourself just pour out through your music. And just being there and able to have that expression. And so it was a lot of fun, but it was never anything too serious, never anything too big. So, I mean, it was a fun thing, and I enjoyed it. It was good in a lot of ways, and as close as I ever got to the whole sex, drugs, rock and roll, wine, women, and song, which wasn't a whole lot of any of that, but nevertheless, it was still a good time. But nothing. You guys have probably done more than I have in the long haul of it.
Well,
Aaron more so than me. Aaron's played
and
quite a bit
just,
into it a little bit.
I mean, just to explain it, I mean, just real fast, I've gotten to play with a lot of amazing musicians, open up for some of my favorite musicians, sit in front of my favorite guitar player who was my teacher at the time, Paul Gilbert, and have a fun conversation with him. I've gotten
you took lessons with Paul Gilbert. I didn't know that.
Yes.
I mean, I know you've got the f-stop guitar, his signature.
There's one back there. Hey,
I didn't realize he was your teacher. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Well, so real quick, so he has this online school where you basically do these video exchanges. But hopefully this doesn't sound braggadocious. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the air, but one of the coolest things in my entire life was my son and I took him to a Paul Gilbert concert in Dallas, and I got him the backstage passes and stuff. It's not like Paul Gilbert's playing these stadiums, etc. Sure. But we went there, and I walked on stage, and he goes right away. He goes, "I know you." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm Aaron Davis, or a rock guitarist from the school." He goes, "Oh yeah, man, good to see you here." Cool. And then he and I just went off on the side. He was actually signing autographs, and I was sitting next to him while he was signing autographs, and we were just kind of chatting. And I mentioned, "You've been my main instructor for probably 30 years." And he goes, "Wow." He goes, "Man, that is so cool." And all of a sudden he interrupted me and he goes, "You sound great, by the way." And
nice.
you don't forget that stuff, man. I mean, I'll never forget. I can see it vividly, right? But I take all that back to say I've gotten to do a lot of fun things with guitar.
Yeah.
But my absolute favorite thing to do is sit in here and practice.
Noodle.
I never want to. So Carl, he gigs, and we do kind of a lot of the same kind of stuff sometimes. But I will always perform. I'll do it as long as I can. I'm sure I'm going to do it into my 70s. I guarantee it.
Fantastic.
But my favorite thing is to practice. It's funny, during this interview, guys, I leaned over and flipped off my amp because I was playing it. I was playing guitar right before we got on here because I just freaking love it.
Yeah, Aaron, I wasn't playing my drums because I was giving my wife a little bit of a break because she was trying to watch a show. But right before I hooked up with you, I was on my practice pad behind me because I'm honestly trying to really beef up my singles. Jay Weinberg has got me freaking trying to police up my singles and even my double bass. So I was definitely working on my hands earlier.
Nice.
Guys, just, all of us, I know, I mean, are all have to be kind of type A, at least close to it, right?
A little bit.
but the thing is, jiu-jitsu, shooting, fitness, reading, music, man, it's just a blast.
Yeah.
Now, like, music is difficult enough to where you can't see these, you can't get to a PR next week, right?
Right.
But I have a metronome, and I can gauge how fast I can play 16th notes at whatever tempo, and
sure,
with perfect alternate picking and stuff like that. So but digressing a little bit, I freaking love to practice. So it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be something where you're playing in front of thousands of people all the time. I love hearing stories about, like, yours getting together and playing, because some of my favorite memories were when Eric and I played in some bands that were really good, but just not superstars or anything. We just had a freaking blast. Like you said, drink some beer and
Yeah.
Playing some college. What's the word I'm looking for? What was some of the
frat parties
thank you goodness. I'm drawing a blank there.
Playing at bars when we weren't 21.
Right.
And
You're right.
And then when the club owners found out, all of a sudden they stopped returning your calls. That
we played a bunch of gigs at that bar that you're speaking of. Found out them
ton. And you aren't 21. We thought you knew. If I knew that sort of thing was frowned upon.
And we made that bar a bunch of money because we packed that place out, man.
See?
Well, did you get it? Yeah, we played the perfect music for that, which John was like freaking Pantera covers and stuff.
Pantera, Metallica, Alice in Chains.
Awesome. See?
Saigon Kick, all kinds of pretty heavy rock stuff. But man, we're hitting the end here. But John, so real quick before we let you go, what's the current music rotation?
So just a couple months ago, I went to the, if you will, resurrected Milwaukee Metal Fest. The legendary Milwaukee Metal Fest. Came back. Jamie Josta, the vocalist singer for Hatebreed, most known for that.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, he's a wonderful entrepreneur and all this stuff. And he bought the rights to Milwaukee Metal Fest. He brought it back. And so I went there with a buddy of mine, had an amazing long weekend doing that. And so I'm still spinning off of the bands and things from there. So so I've been listening to more Biohazard because I used to really love Biohazard a lot back in the day and kind of just drifted away from them. And then they had a nice reuniting show of the first time the four original guys had been back on stage together in forever. So that was great to see. Obituary is another band that I always kind of was like, so, because like death metal, like, and all of that is not quite my thing. But I just got to, my buddy is all into Obituary and all that stuff. And so watched it and just, became, I've heard those things here and there. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's fine. I liked, some of their newer stuff, 10,000 Ways to Die. And, some of the newer stuff was great, but seeing them live just put it over for me. And so I've been spinning a lot of Obituary.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
Oh yeah. The live stuff has been doing it for me. And now I have to, forgive me for a minute, I have to look this up to make sure I pronounce their name correctly. It's a band called, hang on, where is it? I got to scroll here. Angelus Apodrita, Apatrida, Apodrita. I hope I'm saying that right. Angelus Apodrita, Apatrida.
Is that Portuguese?
They're from Spain, Spanish, and all that. So it's that
close enough. Okay,
and they're kind of like this, new wave thrash metal. And boy, when they hit, like, my buddy said, "Hey, let me go and check these guys out." And I spun a couple tunes before going. I'm like, "Oh, this should be cool." Their set was, to me, was killer. It was amazing. They just they ripped. So if you like, good thrash metal, I highly suggest checking them out.
I'll look them up.
And even start with their latest album, which is here. Wait, let me see the name of it. I'm still learning their stuff. Oh, it's just self-titled. So it was released back in 2021. So far, everything's been really good that I've been listening to, but that latest album is just absolutely just killer. So those have been the big things that I've been spinning a lot lately. Have been the Angelus Apodrita. Let's see here. Yeah, Dark Angel is another one. Dark Angel's been a favorite band of mine since I was, a teenager, and getting to see them playing live was a treat. So I've been spinning a little bit more of them too. But that's the big things I've been spinning. Like if I have to pick, certain bands I listen to a lot, it's them.
Cool.
So how about you guys then? What's on your spin lately?
So I'll take this real quick. I mentioned Jay Weinberg of Slipknot, right? And I'm going to say out front, I'm not a huge Slipknot fan. But I mean, for some reason, I fell on a few of their newer songs, and I listened to a few Slipknot songs back in the day. but just seeing some of the stuff that, Jay Weinberg is not the original drummer.
No. Joey
But
Jordison, amazing.
exactly.
Drummer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So, that was one thing that I wasn't, being that he's a newer drummer, I wasn't really paying as much attention until I found some stuff that he was doing. I'm like, wow, this guy's awesome. And again, I mentioned him just a second ago. He has me, I'm going through double bass drills that I have not done in 30 years, to get to especially my left foot is weak. When it comes down to my double bass. And so I've been doing a lot of drills on that and then really beefing up. Aaron, this may sound funny, not sound funny to you, but man, I'm actually doing Tabatas with 16th note singles at 200 beats per minute. And I've never been able to do singles like that. So it was kind of cool earlier today when I was feeling, I can only do it for a little while, 10, 20 seconds, but yeah.
Awesome. And then you
pretty,
separate it for 21 seconds and then 22 seconds and then 23 seconds and set those little PRs. See, we just tie
PR.
Exactly.
That's cool. How about you, Aaron? What are you spinning?
Well, so I usually like a little bit, I guess not poppier, but well, so I'll just go through what I've been listening. So for one thing, the new Extreme album just came out.
I've heard it's really good.
There's lots of good stuff on there, and then there's some so-so stuff on there, but it's still definitely worth. I mean, Nuno is always fun to listen to.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here. The album Silk Sonic by Bruno Mars, and I always get his Anderson .Paak. Dude, that's some funky shit.
Anderson .Paak?
Yeah, dude, Bruno Mars is ridiculous. If people like kind of funk or stuff that's got a 70s vibe to it, dude, that guy's timing and vocal phrasing is just ridiculous.
Definitely, I agree.
I've heard my wife and my daughter and so I hear songs, and I mean, I know this isn't a Bruno Mars song; it's Mark Ronson, but like Uptown Funk. Every time that song comes on, you got to turn that to 11 because that's just such a damn good song.
Smooth. It's smoother than a fresh drawn Skippy.
Look, Julio, get the stretch, okay?
Yes. Sorry, but man, Big Wreck is this Canadian band that is just ridiculous. And I know this is goofy, but dude, there's a movie called Don't Look Up on Netflix.
Okay.
Dude, there's a Ariana Grande song on there.
Yeah.
Or Grande. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So and let me name a couple more here. Of course, dude, I've been on a big Jason Bieler kick from Saigon Kick, especially.
Been listening to that a lot too, buddy. Yep.
Since he came on, but actually he came on because I was on a big Jason Bieler kick and called him. But
you guys telling me about how that all came together. I thought that was awesome, man. Saigon Kick was just one of those like unknown type bands. But I remember I was working in radio at the time when their first album came in, and I just remember just being blown away by that first album, just how amazing that was.
So you just meld together melodicism of the Beatles or the Byrds or whoever you can think of with not metal really, but heavy rock.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sensibility that Jason has. I mean, Saigon Kick was Jason.
Yeah.
And for sure. But and his latest stuff is still excellent. So his EP Heathens and the album Birds of Prey is really good too. So
man, we obviously need to have. Go ahead, Al. I'm sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying we obviously have way too much stuff to talk about, so we just got to have you on again. And more than anything is, man, we got to train, and then we can go have a beer and talk music for about 5 hours.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm seeing this thing here with Jason. It says Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bleesky Orchestra.
Yep, the Baron von Belsky Orchestra, and some of that is pretty darn heavy
Yeah,
too. But
it is.
Right now, though, put this on your list to listen to is the EP Heathens.
Heathens.
That's got 4 kick-ass songs.
Yeah, really good.
So yeah, check that out, man.
Jason Bieler Heathens. I'm not.
You might have to go. I mean, it's on.
Okay, I'm seeing it. Yeah, I just found it on Bandcamp there. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, so like the album, I mean, I love Heathens. You guys liking some of the little bit heavier music, you'll dig Sick Riff. Just listen to the lyrics to Sick Riff. So it's pretty cool, man.
Well, all right. I will check this out. This looks cool.
We've had a good long show, a lot of fun. Yes. As always, being able to hang out with guys like you, John, is a blast. You know, this is the same type of blast that we have jamming with great friends and playing great music, right? So it's very similar. It's a very similar type of creative outlet. So for people like you that are so amazing at what you do and vast knowledge, to spend time with us is humbling to us. And before we let you go, please tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Send smoke signals and carrier pigeons.
Okay. That's old school.
If you want to, online or whatever, I tend to be known as Soy, HSOI. So you can find me at my website, soy.com, HSOI.com. You can email me at HSOI@HSOI.com, right? Soy@soy.com. You can find me on the internets. I am on the Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I spend probably more time on Instagram, but these days I'm not spending a whole lot of time on social media because it's just a drain.
Yep.
Yes.
We're only on there because we have to.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of it is. It's like, I get on Facebook because I have to. I look at a couple things. I just haven't been doing a whole lot there because it's just become a time suck. But if people do want to, I do things on there. I am on there. And of course, if anyone wants to reach out about things, you can just drop me an email or reach out to me on one of those platforms. And that's totally fine. I'm all cool with that. So, but, and also if you want to, for any kind of, if you're down here in the Central Texas area and all that, or if you like coming down here, obviously you can come on out to KR Training.
Yes.
And, have classes with Carl or myself or other people like that. Would always love to have people down and out for that. But I really want to also just thank you guys because, like I said in the, I forget if I said at the beginning or if it was early before we started recording, but just I had a real just hell of a day at the day job here, and I've been looking forward to this. And I got to tell you here at the end of almost nearing 2 hours here talking with you guys, it's I feel so good. I feel so great. It was just a joy and a thrill to talk to you both. It's always great to talk to you guys, whether it's about whatever. I mean, we've got so many things that we both all love and share. And so to be able to talk about that and share that with each other and both teach each other stuff, but also just, bond on all this stuff has been fantastic. So I want to thank you, Aaron, and you, Eric, for having me on again and to just, giving me just a real great time here. So it's been a joy. And yeah, I look forward to any opportunity that we could do it again, or especially look for the opportunity that we can get together, actually.
Absolutely.
To tack on or whatever it may be. So.
Yes, sir. Man, thank you very much. That is humbling to us for certain.
I know. Appreciate you guys a whole lot. You guys are doing great things. Appreciate you.
We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, for now, we'll say goodbye. You guys have a good evening, and we'll talk to you soon, John.
Cool.
Rock and roll.
All right.
Thanks, y'all. Be strong.